everyone. Welcome back to Body Talk Chronicles, where we explore the fascinating world of communication and body language. In today's video, we're going to delve into the intriguing topic of nonverbal cues across different cultures. Did you know that a gesture as simple as a thumbs up can mean something entirely different depending on where you are in the world? Stick around to find out what you need to know about nonverbal communication when interacting with people from different cultures. Let's get started. Communication isn't just about the words we say. In fact, a significant part of our interactions with others is through nonverbal cues like gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, and even the way we stand or sit. But here's the catch. These cues don't always translate the same way across different cultures. What's considered polite in one culture might be seen as rude in another. And that's why understanding these differences is so important, especially in our increasingly globalized world. 1. The power of gestures. Let's start with gestures. These are perhaps the most obvious forms of nonverbal communication, but they're also the most likely to be misunderstood across cultures. Take the thumbs up gesture, for example. In many Western countries, it's a sign of approval or a job well done. But did you know that in some Middle Eastern and South American countries, it can be considered offensive? It's similar to giving someone the middle finger in Western cultures. So it's crucial to be mindful of how you use your hands when communicating abroad. Another example is the OK sign, where you form a circle with your thumb and index finger. In the United States and many other countries, this means everything is fine. However, in places like Brazil, it's a vulgar gesture, and in Turkey, it can be used to imply that someone is homosexual in a derogatory way. These differences highlight how easily a well-intentioned gesture can lead to misunderstandings. 2. Facial expressions. Universality versus cultural nuances. Now, let's move on to facial expressions. Some researchers argue that basic facial expressions, like those for happiness, sadness, anger, and fear, are universal. And while that's generally true, the way these expressions are used and interpreted can vary significantly. For example, in many Asian cultures, people tend to mask their emotions, especially in public settings. Smiling when embarrassed or even upset is not uncommon in places like Japan or South Korea, as it's seen as a way to maintain harmony and avoid conflict. On the other hand, in Western cultures, people might interpret this as a sign that everything is okay, or that the person is happy, which could lead to confusion. Another interesting point is the concept of saving face, which is particularly important in many Asian cultures. This means that people might hide their true feelings to avoid embarrassment or shame, both for themselves and for others. Understanding this can help you better navigate social interactions in these contexts. 3. Eye contact. The window to the soul. Eye contact is often described as the window to the soul, but its meaning varies widely across cultures. In many Western cultures, maintaining eye contact is seen as a sign of confidence, honesty, and engagement. However, in some Asian, Middle Eastern, and African cultures, prolonged eye contact can be considered rude, confrontational, or disrespectful, especially when dealing with someone in a position of authority or an elder. For instance, in Japan, it's common to avoid direct eye contact as a sign of respect. Similarly, in some Native American cultures, looking someone directly in the eyes might be avoided as it's seen as disrespectful. So, when interacting with people from these cultures, it's important to be mindful of your eye contact and adjust accordingly. 4. Personal space and touch. Personal space and physical touch are other areas where cultural differences can lead to misunderstandings. In countries like the United States, Canada, and much of Northern Europe, people tend to value their personal space. A comfortable distance for a conversation might be around an arm's length or more. However, in many Latin American, Middle Eastern, and Southern European countries, people stand much closer to each other when interacting. This close proximity is often a sign of warmth and friendliness, but for someone not used to it, it can feel a bit invasive. Touch is also perceived differently. A friendly pat on the back, a handshake, or a hug might be common in some cultures, but in others, particularly in conservative societies, physical contact might be reserved for close family members only. For instance, in some parts of the Middle East, it's not customary for men and women to touch in public if they're not related, so a handshake could be considered inappropriate. 5. The importance of silence. Silence is another nonverbal cue that's interpreted differently around the world. In Western cultures, silence during a conversation is often seen as awkward or uncomfortable, leading people to quickly fill the void with words. However, in many Asian cultures, silence is valued as a sign of thoughtfulness and respect. It's not uncommon for there to be pauses in conversations in places like Japan or China, where silence is seen as an opportunity to reflect on what's been said before responding. Understanding this can help you avoid the temptation to jump in and fill the silence when interacting with people from these cultures. Instead, take a moment to reflect and allow the conversation to proceed at its own pace. 6. Cultural context and adaptation. So, how can we navigate these differences effectively? The key is cultural awareness and adaptation. Before traveling to or interacting with people from a different culture, take the time to research and learn about their customs and communication styles. When in doubt, observe how others are behaving and follow their lead. And if you're not sure whether a particular gesture or form of communication is appropriate, it's always okay to ask. It's also important to be patient and forgiving, both with yourself and others. Misunderstandings can happen, but approaching these situations with humility and a willingness to learn can go a long way in building positive relationships. 7. The global impact of nonverbal communication. As our world becomes more interconnected, understanding nonverbal communication across cultures is more important than ever. Whether you're in a business meeting, traveling abroad, or simply interacting with friends from different backgrounds, being aware of these nuances can help you communicate more effectively and avoid potential pitfalls. So, to wrap things up, remember that nonverbal communication is powerful, but it's not universal. Gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, personal space, and silence all have different meanings depending on the cultural context. By being mindful of these differences and adapting your communication style, you can navigate cross-cultural interactions with confidence and respect. I hope you found this video insightful. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with anyone who might benefit from these tips. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to Body Talk Chronicles for more videos on communication, body language, and so much more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.